My dad called me a burden and said they'd be better off without me. So I walked away, stopped paying their mortgage, and months later when their message finally came, my reply ended everything. I, 32M, never imagined that 32 years of my life could fracture in the space of a few heated minutes. That night changed everything for me, and it still echoes in my mind like a bell that can never be unrung. After sending that text, "Guess you're better off without me," I thought maybe they would come rushing back with real apologies, or that they would beg me to return. But instead, the silence that followed told me more than words ever could. It confirmed that to them, I had never been a son or a brother. I had been a provider, a safety net, a living, breathing wallet that existed to keep their lives running smoothly. The first week after I walked away felt surreal. I woke up alone in my small studio apartment, for bare walls surrounding me, the sunlight creeping through a thin curtain I had bought at a thrift store. It wasn't fancy. The mattress was used, the table was wobbly, and the chair squeaked whenever I sat down. But for the first time in my adult life, every single thing in that space belonged to me. It was humble, but it was mine. I remember standing in the middle of that apartment one evening, looking around, and feeling something I hadn't felt in years, peace. The silence no longer felt like a weight of loneliness. It felt like freedom. My routine slowly took shape. I woke up, went to work at the warehouse, clocked out, stopped at the gym, and came back to my apartment to cook whatever I could afford. It was simple. It was predictable. But most importantly, it was my life, untangled from the chaos of my father's bitterness and my sister's dependency. For years, I had been carrying their responsibilities as if they were my own. I had worked overtime to cover their bills, skipped out on dates because I couldn't afford to go, and put my education on hold so that I could pour every spare dollar into keeping them comfortable. Now, for the first time, I was allowed to think about myself. But that freedom was not without its shadows. My father began calling me regularly. At first, his messages were drenched in apology. He said he hadn't meant what he said that night, that stress and pain had clouded his judgment. He asked me to come home. He told me that we were still family, that families fought but always made up. But when I didn't answer, his tone shifted. The apologies turned into demands. Then the demands turned into fury. He accused me of abandoning him, of being ungrateful, of being cold. Finally, his messages dipped into desperation, saying they couldn't handle the bills without me, begging me to return. I listened to some of them once, then deleted them all. My sister reached out too, but her approach was different. She didn't beg. She didn't apologize. Instead, she leaned on emotional manipulation. Her messages were about family loyalty, about how I was letting Dad down, about how she was trying her best but struggling. Yet even in those messages, she never once acknowledged the fact that she had stood by silently while our father called me a burden. That silence of hers spoke louder than any words she could send. 3 weeks after I left, her casual, entitled text about the mortgage arrived. I can still see it on my screen. Asterisk, why isn't the mortgage covered this month? Asterisk, as if nothing had changed, as if I hadn't walked away, as if my father hadn't uttered words that tore a hole through my chest. That's when I sent my reply, "Guess you're better off without me." After that, the silence came back, and this time, it stayed. 6 weeks later, my father called again, and this time, against my better judgment, I answered. His voice was different, smaller, fragile. He didn't start with anger or demands. He started with a simple question: if I was okay, where I was living, if I needed anything. The irony of him asking me if I needed anything wasn't lost on me. He told me they had received a foreclosure notice. The bank was demanding 3 months of back payments plus fees, a total of nearly $8,000. He said he had applied for assistance programs, but the process was slow. He told me my sister had finally picked up a part-time job at a retail store, but her wages barely covered groceries. I listened quietly. When he finished, he asked if I could help them figure something out. His tone wasn't demanding this time. It was pleading. And for a moment, I thought about it. The truth was, I could help. For the first time in years, I had been saving money. My small apartment, my careful budget, my double shifts. They meant that I actually had enough to cover what they owed. But as I sat there holding the phone, I couldn't stop thinking about that night. About the word, burden. About my sister's silence. About the years I had given up for them without even a word of gratitude. So I told him the only thing I could say honestly, I'll think about it. Then I hung up. 2 months after I left, my uncle called. My father's brother had heard about the foreclosure and wanted to understand what was happening. When I told him the full story, the years of bills I had been covering, the mortgage payments I had been making, the weight I had been carrying alone, he was stunned. He said he had assumed my father was handling his own affairs. He suggested a family meeting, a chance to sit down together and maybe work something out. I was hesitant, but agreed, on the condition that it would be at a neutral location. We met at a coffee shop downtown. The atmosphere was heavy. My father looked like he had aged 10 years in just 2 months. He had lost weight. His clothes hung loosely on him, and his eyes looked sunken. My sister was there too, fidgeting with her phone, avoiding my eyes. My uncle tried to facilitate, asking each of us to share our perspective. My father went first. He apologized for that night, saying he was stressed, in pain, and didn't mean it. He said he didn't realize how much I had been contributing financially. He asked me to consider coming home to help save the house. My sister's apology was hollow. She said she was sorry that I felt unappreciated, not sorry for failing to support me. She talked about how she was working now, about how losing the house would be hard on Dad's recovery, and asked if I could find it in my heart to help. When it was my turn, I kept it simple. I told them that for years, I had sacrificed my own future, my own health, and my own dreams to keep them comfortable. I reminded them that when I finally asked for help, I had been met with silence from my sister and cruel words from my father. I told them that I was building a new life now, one where I was no longer a burden, not to them, but to myself. My uncle tried to mediate, suggesting maybe I could help with the immediate crisis while they worked on becoming more self-sufficient. But I shook my head. My decision was final. My father began to cry. It was the first time I had seen him cry since my mother's funeral. He said he was sorry, that he needed me. My sister joined in, saying she would change, that she would step up. But for the first time in my life, I didn't feel guilt. I felt sadness that it took losing their lifeline for them to finally see me. I told them that I loved them, but love didn't mean I had to sacrifice my life for theirs. And then I walked away. For months after I left, the house was gone. The foreclosure went through. My father moved in with my uncle. My sister found a roommate across town. Both of them were working now. My father in a part-time job that fit his limitations, and my sister in a full-time role she had finally secured. As for me, I was promoted to a supervisor position at the warehouse. The extra money allowed me to move into a better apartment, a 1-bedroom this time, and start saving for my future. I enrolled in night classes to finish the degree I had put on hold years ago. For the first time, I was building something just for myself. My father still calls occasionally. Our conversations are different now. He asks about my job, my classes, my plans. He updates me on his life without asking for money. My sister and I text from time to time, and she seems more independent than I've ever seen her. In a strange way, walking away may have been the best thing I ever did, not just for myself, but for them too. And sometimes, when I drive past our old neighborhood, I see the house we once lived in. A new family lives there now. Children's toys scatter the yard. The shutters have fresh paint. The place looks happy in a way it never did when we were inside it. My father was right about one thing that night. I was a burden. But the burden wasn't on them. It was on me. I had been carrying a weight that was never mine to carry. Now that I've set it down, I am finally free. The mortgage may not be covered anymore, but I am. Like and subscribe for more stories of betrayal, revenge, and finding freedom.